Hi everyone, we're just letting people into the meeting now, so we'll just give everybody a minute or two to join and then we'll kick off. Okay, good afternoon everyone and welcome to the MEANZ Business Net Zero Insights webinar series. We do have people still joining us on the call, so we're going to make a start anyway because we don't want to keep you any longer than what we've promised. We will be recording the session and I think we have everybody set to mute automatically. So please use the chat function to ask questions or make comments. Please also make sure on your end of Teams that you're muted so that we can avoid background noise, please. We do have a couple of short polls to do today, so you'll need your phone to scan the QR code on the screen to be able to take part in those. And we will be sharing the slides from today's session with attendees afterwards. So to make a start, if we move to the next slide, Donna, today's webinar is the second of 8 online webinars which are being delivered as part of the Net Zero Insights webinar series. Today is UK Energy Efficiency Day, so we couldn't think of a better date to bring you 2 webinars on energy efficiency and what it might mean for your business. So we had one this morning at 11 o'clock, which was focused more on the smaller businesses. And this one, energy efficiency and renewable energy investment, is more geared towards the larger businesses. That first webinar, some of the content on that is quite similar to what we'll have in the first part of the session today, but we have a different company speaker pitched towards the larger companies on this second webinar. So to get started, I'll run quickly through the agenda, which is on the screen. I suppose by way of introduction, my name's Conor O'Dornan. I'm the Net Zero Innovation and Delivery Manager for Mid and East Antrim Borough Council. I'm responsible for implementing the MEANZ Business project, which this Net Zero Insights series is part of. And I'll give you a quick introduction to the MEANZ Business project and then pass over to our two speakers who are joining us on the call this afternoon. First, you'll hear from Lucy Joss, who is the training and content developer at Energy Savings Trust. Lucy will share her thoughts on energy efficiency and what it might mean for your business, and no doubt you'll pick up some tips and tricks on how to tackle energy efficiency within your own business. Lucy will be followed by Ciaran Maxwell, who's a low carbon and renewables engineer at Ryobi Aluminium Casting, based here in Mid and East Antrim Borough Council. Ciaran will give you some insights into the energy efficiency journey which Ryobi are undertaking and some of the challenges and lessons learned along the way, as well as some of their future plans. We'll then have Q&A with our speakers, and please do post your questions in the chat as the speakers are presenting, so that we can pick out a few, hopefully, and direct those towards the presenters. And then we'll close out the session with a short summary and next steps. So in terms of what to expect, we'll try and keep it to 45 minutes. We'll have 10 minutes for each of the two speakers. Please do post your questions in the chat. I think your mics and your raising hands, etc., is disabled, so please do use that chat function. This session is being recorded, and we'll share that recording with you afterwards, as well as the PowerPoint slides. And we will be running two polls, one at the start and one at the end of the session, just to try and get some feedback from you. So the MEANZ Business project, which I've just noted, is part of the Innovate UK Fast Followers programme. MEA Net Zero, as in Mid and East Antrim Net Zero Business, is the title of the project. It's part of the Net Zero Living programme, which Innovate UK are delivering. It's designed to help local authorities address non-technical barriers to achieving net zero targets, and our project will increase understanding and knowledge of decarbonisation and net zero, both within council and in local industry. So to do that, there's a number of different elements to the project. The first one being an insights programme. So as well as this webinar series, we have a number of other activities, including best practice sharing and knowledge transfer activities, which we're hoping will help us to increase understanding and knowledge. We also have some corporate or council decarbonisation projects, which are quite practical, including data analysis, plan and support, and a net zero skills mapping exercise internally. We also have industry decarbonisation projects, so practical projects where we are supporting industry to address their decarbonisation challenges. And then finally, Innovate UK have provided what they call as a Future Ready programme. It's an underpinning programme of support, which includes technical advice, insights, knowledge sharing, training and mentoring for the projects that are involved in the programme. So to get started, the first thing we'd like to do is share with you the first poll question. So on the screen, you should see a QR code, and if you would take out your phone and scan the QR code, you should bring up in your browser this question, which is: what are the biggest challenges to your business or organisation? And what do you face in reducing your own carbon footprint or reaching net zero? So please do, even if you were on the call earlier this morning, please do scan the QR code or use the URL with the code that's on the screen and answer those questions if you wouldn't mind. You can choose all the answers that are relevant, not just the biggest challenge. Again, finance and investment was one of the early runners for top, I suppose, top challenge when we did this earlier, and that remains the same. And knowledge and expertise also, I think, ranked highly earlier. There are some of these titles that you don't show on the screen but should show on your browser. Okay, we'll give another 30 seconds or 20 seconds or so for anybody else that hasn't completed that to do so. Obviously a mix there, but finance, investment and knowledge and expertise being the key front runners. If you have any commentary on why that is, or even the knowledge and expertise part can mean obviously a number of different things. Is that technical knowledge in terms of implementing solutions, or is that knowledge within staff of behavioural change, etc.? Please do make comment in the chat if you have anything else to add to that. Okay, if we move on to the next one, we'd also like to know where on the net zero journey you think your business currently sits, ranging from haven't thought about it or just beginning to plan, to having a plan, to being well advanced in your plan, or to having achieved net zero as a business. So answer this as your organization, from your organization's perspective. Where do you think you are as a business or an organization on your net zero journey? And again, if you have anything to add, any relevant commentary, please add that in the chat. So a mix of beginning to plan and having a plan and implementing it. Again, that aligns closely with what we had from smaller businesses on the call earlier this morning. We did have a few of the smaller businesses felt they were well advanced in implementing their plans. So interesting that maybe some of our larger businesses aren't quite at that point yet. Maybe greater ambitions, so possibly not as far along. And a few, I think exactly the same percentage actually of respondents that haven't quite thought about it yet. So hopefully we can help with that today. Okay, 7 or 8 responses out of 12 or 13 there, so that's fine. Okay, so I think if we move on to our first speaker, Lucy Joss, as I mentioned, is the training and content developer at Energy Saving Trust, and she has kindly agreed to join us today to give us a bit of an overview of energy efficiency and what it means for you. Lucy.
Thanks very much, Connor. Hi, everyone. I'm Lucy Joss from Energy Saving Trust. And as Connor says, I'm going to be talking through what energy efficiency means and how we can achieve it through various things you could do with your business. So if we could go to the first slide, please. We'll just define what we actually mean by energy efficiency. So we mean energy efficiency means using less energy to do the same things you do every day. That whether that's at home, when you're out and about, or in a business organisation. And being energy efficient can be achieved by measuring your energy use and having a plan or policy in place to reduce it, installing energy efficiency measures, and implementing behaviour change. And we'll look at some examples later on. But firstly, why is this important for businesses? So we've got 4 key benefits to saving energy. The first one being the environment and the positive impact that saving energy has on our environment. Lots of our energy comes from burning fossil fuels like oil and gas, though more and more of it is now being generated by renewable technologies like wind and solar power. And actually, as of Monday this week, there are no longer any coal-fired power stations in the UK. So that's a really positive step forward. The International Energy Agency, or IEA, say that by using energy more efficiently, it is possible that we could reduce more than 40% of the carbon emissions that need to be prevented by 2040. And greenhouse gas emissions have increased. They've been increasing since the Industrial Revolution, which is what's contributing to human-induced climate change, and that's having impacts across the world. And when it comes to workplaces and businesses, there's many different types, all with different varied operations, and many of which contribute to greenhouse gas emissions. For example, approximately 25% of the UK's greenhouse gas emissions are from business. So every organisation will need to examine how its operations contribute to climate change and how to take action through energy efficiency measures and also behaviour change. Outside of the workplace, in our homes, we process water and transport water, and that requires huge amounts of energy. So it's important that we're also using water wisely and don't waste it. And especially in the UK, where we are starting to experience hotter and drier summers due to climate change. And with hot water, that's got the additional environmental and financial impact of needing to be heated as well. So using water more efficiently is just as important as using energy efficiently. By being energy efficient at work, you could also help your business or organisation cut costs by saving money on the energy bills. The average small and medium-sized enterprise could reduce its energy bills by 18 to 25% by installing energy efficiency measures and implementing behaviour change. And this is even more significant with energy bills and operating costs on the rise as well. Also, with some businesses, staff work from home as well, so applying the same approaches will help to reduce household bills for home workers too. And finally, an additional benefit is the reputation of the business or organisation. Just since being energy efficient has a positive impact on the environment, this can be an attractive draw for customers and clients as well. So if we go on to the next slide, please. It's just looking at different areas where you might be using energy in business. So some examples are heating and cooling, mechanical ventilation systems like extractor fans, lighting and computing equipment like computers, monitors, printers. Also appliances and facilities, maybe in a kitchen area, for example, like kettles, fridge freezers, and then your toilets and showers potentially as well. Any other equipment specific to your business, for example, manufacturing equipment, and also transport. So for commuting to and from the business, business travel, you might have a fleet of vehicles, for example, as well. So the first thing you want to do is work out where you're using energy, and then from there you can determine how to use it more efficiently. So let's have a look at some examples of what you can do to save energy. So if we can move on to the next slide, thank you. So we've got a few examples here. Some of them are measures that you can implement to your business. Others are more behavioural advice that you can sort of engage your staff in doing. So in terms of measures, let's start with insulating. So as we mentioned, energy is used for heating and cooling. So regardless of what system provides these, that heat can be lost through the building. So ensuring that the building's adequately insulated helps to retain that heat, which allows you to reduce how much energy you use for heating. And that works in reverse as well, because insulation can prevent the building from overheating during warm weather, and that then reduces the need for cooling systems kicking in. So you're reducing the demands on those systems, but you're also making your occupants in the building more comfortable too. In terms of the heating system, we've learned that one of the key benefits of saving energy is the impact on the environment. So we need to reduce our use of fossil-fueled heating, heating from gas or oil or coal. And that means exploring low or zero carbon heating systems, for example, heat pumps. There's many different types of heat pumps out there, but essentially what they do is capture heat from the outside environment, which is usually the air, ground, or sometimes water, and they transfer that heat around the building through a distribution system, for example, radiators or underfloor heating or air vents. They do use some electricity to do this, but they deliver more heat than the electricity they use to run, which makes them very efficient. They don't burn fuel, so they don't emit any carbon dioxide. And the grid itself is becoming greener as well, which helps that along. And yeah, changing the heating system is a key step in reducing the carbon emissions, which has a positive impact on your reputation. In some cases, it could even save you money on your bills too. You could also generate your own energy, for example, through technologies like solar panels. Solar PV panels capture energy from the sun and you use this to generate electricity. And if you pair that with a battery storage system, you can then store that electricity for later use, which can be a great way for businesses to reduce energy costs as sunlight is free. It's another way to reduce your carbon emissions as well, because you can reduce how much electricity you use from the grid, which, despite becoming greener, does still use some fossil fuel generated electricity from time to time. And when it comes to more behavioural advice that you can engage all your staff in, that ranges from sort of taking control of different systems like the heating and cooling systems, for example. You might be able to access controls like thermostats or valves on the radiators, but also just thinking about more natural sources that you can maybe take advantage of. So for example, opening blinds to let the sunlight in to warm the space, opening windows and doors to cool it, all those sort of simple behaviour changes, just to kind of manage the heating. Also just switching other appliances and devices and lighting, all those sorts of things, switching them off if you can, which can be another good way to save energy. If not, maybe using power saving features. And I mean, really, we do need to use energy and water in our work, but it is important to just try and use it as wisely as possible. So just taking control, switching it off can make a huge difference. Outside of the workplace is just sort of getting around more sustainably. So we mentioned transport. So if people are commuting to and from work, or if you need to travel for business or anything like that, is it worth looking at active travel, for example, walking, cycling? If you have a fleet, is it worth looking at electric vehicles and things like that, which will reduce vehicle emissions and pollution, and just improve health and well-being as well. And the last two here is just about sort of keeping track of your energy use to see what you're using, so that you can then sort of make a plan as to what you can do to reduce your carbon emissions and sort of save your energy costs. And if you do have employees, it's worth engaging them in energy efficiency as well. A lot of the examples we're given today are things that everyone can do. So it's just educating everyone to just raise awareness, maybe run an internal campaign to get everyone involved. So that was just a very, very quick overview. There's lots of examples on our website. I can share a link to that as well if you do want to learn a bit more about these things. And just lastly, I'll just cover this quite quickly here, but there is support out there for Northern Ireland if you are looking at some of these bigger measures. So there's the Northern Ireland Sustainable Energy Programme, or NICEP, where you can see on the slide here, although it is for homeowners and private tenants and so on, there is support for the commercial sector as well. And you can see some of the examples of things that you could potentially get a grant towards, things like that we've mentioned, like heat pumps, solar PV, LED lighting, heat recovery, all those sorts of things. So I can share that link in the chat as well, so you can have a look into that. And finally, just the last slide, just another option, the Energy Efficiency Capital Grant, which, as again, you can see on the screen there, that it offers grants of up to £150,000 to help businesses buy and install energy efficient equipment. So some examples of projects that could be considered for the grant are things like heating and cooling equipment, motors and drives, compressed air, lighting, and on-site renewable generation. So I've raced through a lot of information there, so if you do have any questions, please do just pop them in the chat. I'm happy to answer those if I can, and I'll just pass you back to Connor. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Lucy. As you say, a lot of information there. And if anybody does have questions, just stick it in the chat. We will be sharing the slides. So obviously some links and some detail on the slide there that you might be interested in, that you maybe were aware of already and wanted to follow up on, or maybe wanted to look into in more detail. We will share those details. Okay, so next speaker is Ciaran Maxwell of Ryobi Aluminium Casting. Ciaran's going to give us a bit of an overview of what they've done in Ryobi in relation to energy efficiency and renewables investment. Ciaran.
Good afternoon, everybody. Fortunately for you, Ryobi's policy is we don't have cameras on our PCs, so you don't have to look at my face. Just a photo from 14 years ago will have to suffice. But yeah, as Connor said, Ryobi, we have kind of started our journey mainly a lot of data collection and metering and stuff, just to try and see where we are, because we have so much, we do use so much energy. So it was more of an analysis to see where the low hanging fruit was. But these are just a couple of slides just to kind of give an overview why we're doing it, what we have kind of done, and what our future projects are. So if we can go to next slide. Again, just so company overview, LED lighting, early audits, and then future items. So over to the next slide, please. So just to give you an idea, right? We've got 2 sites in Carrickfergus, which is the European base for our corporate Ryobi group. It was established in 1992, and we have now over 650 employees across 2 sites. Our main activities are casting and machining. So our site in Trippers Industrial Estate is where our casting and machining facility is, and then Kilroot site is just all machining. We have a bit of a good product mix for the automotive industry. So we've made clutch cases, transmission cases, cam cars, oil sumps, and engine blocks, and they're going to the likes of Stellantis, JLR, Ford, Volkswagen as well, and the latest Stellantis products we're making are hybrid, so we're kind of breaking into the EV or the hybrid / EV stage. We were on course to, like, in 2 years' time to start an EV part for Ford, but that was kind of put on hold because of the recent slump in the EV market. So that's kind of on hold until that's all kind of sorted and the numbers come back up. But as I said, just to kind of give an idea why we're doing it. So we have a mandate from our parent company, RL, Ryobi Limited. So we have to reduce all our total overall emissions to 6,397 tons of carbon for the year in 2030. So that's 50% of our 2018 emissions. And as you can see there, from historical data up to this year so far, and then the predicted scope based off our carbon intensity rating. Our customers, so our earliest deadline from one of our customers to be net zero for their net zero supply chain is 2037. So 13 years. I know it kind of sounds like it's a long way away, but it can come around quickly whenever you have long lead times and projects to implement and get investment for. Then obviously the UK government net zero by 2050. Again, that could change in a drop of a hat. If they're not happy, they could bring it to 2040 by any time. But still a lot of work to do for us, because as you can see there, for 2024 we're predicted to be over 17,000 ton of carbon. So the majority of that is electricity. So we do have a lot of work on the electricity side, but also we do use a lot of gas. So I think last year in 2023 we used about 28 gigawatts of gas. So that's a lot around efficiency, but you probably know yourself from the grid itself, there's no real plan to decarbonise yet. I know there's the biomethane closed up in Dungannon around Granville, but I know there's Phoenix and stuff, because I've been talking a lot with Phoenix and with Electric Ireland, who are our supplier, about what can be done in the future. But if you want to move on to the next slide, please. Yeah, so one thing we have been able to do is we're able to get someone to come in and look at all our LED lighting. So all our T5 fluorescent tubular lights they were coming obsolete, so they were harder to get parts anyway. The factory was a bit, I know that these photos probably don't really do it too much justice, but the factory itself was quite dull and gloomy in the casting shop, especially, where these photos have been taken. And then obviously on the left, you can't see it as a lot brighter with the LED high bays in it. These are all programmable to whatever sort of setting you want, what brightness, how long you want on, the sensitivity. So there's a full range of what suits your business. And I know I'm sounding like a salesman here trying to sell you the LED lights, but they're a very good job. So the whole install, we replaced essentially 1,800 T5 lamps and put in 565 LED lights. And that's saved us about £65,000 per year and 113 tons of carbon. So I know 113 sounds like a lot, but in terms of overall for Ryobi, it's kind of almost like a drop in the ocean for us. But all in all, it's still a 43% overall energy reduction from the lights previously installed. Next slide, please. So one thing I found whenever I've worked in Ryobi a long time, even in the process engineering, anytime you're in the casting shop, you always hear air leaking, hissing out from somewhere. So one thing was I found this acoustic camera, and basically I can start conducting my own air leak audits, and as you can see, these are just a couple of snippets from the actual database itself, and then the reporting output for everyone to follow to try and fix the leaks. So as I said, the database is created. It tracks the cost, tracks the carbon leak rate as well, and then I can see from myself I can push the departmental managers about trying to get them fixed. And from last year, in May 2023, it's identified £50,000 worth in cost saving, that's how much it has cost us the air leak and how much carbon that's been affiliated to. So it can accumulate up whenever you use so much air in the manufacturing process. Next page, please. So these are just a couple of our future projects. There's a lot more or less going on than just these four. One thing I probably shouldn't hear, but it just didn't have any carbon saving, was water pumps for our process control, which we're actually trying to go through that energy efficiency scheme grant that Lucy had talked about. So it's something that we can use to try and avail of funding. But what we're trying to do is deploy a solar PV array, which is 4.3 megawatt, which mimics our import capacity from the grid. So hopefully on a very nice sunny day that we get 3 times a year, we'll be self-sufficient. We don't need any energy from the grid itself. But all in all, it should reduce about 1,400 tons of carbon, which is a significant chunk. A Rankine cycle generator. So what we want to try and do is extract heat from our main melting furnaces. This will create a steam, and then it powers a generator for us, and then we'll be creating our own electricity. So that's roughly going to give us about 500 tons of carbon a year. Recuperative burners, same again, from the waste heat that's been extracted. Stuff that's not been used for the steam generator will come down and go actually back into the burners themselves, which then becomes as a preheater. So we don't have to use ambient temperature. We could be raising that up to maybe 200 degrees, because the heat we're extracting is about 750. So we've got a lot of heat energy there that we can use and we can utilize. And then the one on the very right there with the flame coming out of it's a very developmental technology. It's called a kinetic emitter. So there's a lot of chemistry around it, which I don't really fully understand myself, but my sort of high level understanding is that this is a molecular change rather than a state of matter change. So it works a lot more efficiently to break down the material. So as you can see, if what they tell us what the estimation reduction is, it's going to be a massive carbon saving for us and a better energy efficiency, because obviously if we're getting this carbon reduction for everything, we're then not using for the solar and the generator, we're not using the electricity. So that's an energy saving there and a cost saving. And then obviously for the burners and the kinetic energy, it'd be a massive cost saving. Because all in all, Ryobi's sort of spend on energy is probably 5 million plus for the year. So reductions like that there would be very, very good cost saving for any sort of business, any sort of company. But yeah, if you have any questions or anything, put them in the chat and I'll be happy to answer them if I can. Thank you.
Okay, Ciaran, thank you. Great to get the perspective of a company in the borough of that scale, and some ambitious plans. Obviously, that those projects on the final slide, obviously some of those quite technical and quite ambitious. So be interested to see how those turn out. We had a question in the chat, but you must have answered it along the way because it's been removed. So I think whoever posted it must have been happy enough. I just wanted to pick up on one thing. Lucy obviously mentioned as part of her presentation, the technical elements of energy efficiency and the technology and that kind of stuff, but then obviously a whole range of behavioral change type elements that need to be considered. You've obviously made some very simple changes in terms of technology with the LED lighting in Ryobi, Ciaran, but did you come up against any of the behavioral change challenges? Is that would what Lucy was saying be consistent with your experience of trying to change people's mind about how they do things and how they operate stuff?
Oh yeah, that definitely, because even as I said, like air leaks, if you hear an air leak, it should be something that should be fixed. And like the majority of them are just hoses that people are using day and day. So they're standing listening to that all day whenever it take them 10 minutes to stop and fix it, and then no, the leak itself probably isn't a massive cost itself, but it's just the accumulation of them all. Makes it a massive cost saving. But yeah, it's very hard because even you go into areas that aren't controlled by those LED lights. No, there's lights just left on. There's nobody there. You go into offices, lights are left on. So as you said, it's behavioural changes of just when you're not using it, turn it off or shut it off rather than just either leaving it on standby. No, I have tried to get our IT department to actually shut down our PCs when they're because as you probably yourself, I know it goes into standby mode after a certain time. But I've done it if go into standby mode and then after another hour turn it off. So actually turn the PC off. But there's some things that can't be turned off, so they're just trying to navigate how they do that, so it doesn't turn things off that need to stay on. But yeah, it's difficult. It's difficult for behaviour changes. You probably know yourself. And I'd imagine there's other people here who even like health and safety is another thing. It's just a cultural thing. Trying to change the culture and people's mindset to change. They make it better for them, but they don't see it that way. They just say it's more work or an extra thing they should be doing.
Yeah, the behavioural change thing's difficult, like in your own home with with kids or partners. Trying to change things up, never mind with 650 employees.
Yeah. Sorry, there was one thing I was meant to say. It's just whenever you mentioned after the generator and the recuperative burners project I'm doing, there's another UK-wide funding that I've tried to go through to get this, which is the IETF, the Industrial Energy Transformation Fund. Now, obviously, it's closed for this round of funding, but I believe probably next year there'll be another round because I know they've set aside, I think it was like 315 million or something for this year, or 185, something like that. They set aside a lot of money for this year, so there's a lot more funding out there than just the local Northern Ireland one. There's also one for the mainland UK, which anyone who's doing some of these projects should have a look at.
Yep, thank you. That's brilliant, Ciaran. And I think even internally in council, we've shared that opportunity with most of our networks, and we'll be continuing to promote that sort of opportunity. So worthwhile just signing up to the social media accounts to keep an eye on that kind of stuff. Okay, thanks to Lucy and Ciaran. We're running very quickly out of time, and I don't see any more questions posted in the chat just now. So if we could, Donna, move on to the final poll very quickly. Again, this is a different QR code, so if you could scan the QR code on the screen right now, there's a URL link and a code there as well if you need to do it that way. You should have 3 questions in front of you, just asking about your what you understand so far for what we've done today. So, has your knowledge and understanding of energy efficiency measures increased during this webinar? Very simple, yes, no, or don't know. So we'll give you 20 seconds to reply to that, if you wouldn't mind. Hopefully this should be overwhelmingly positive, hopefully. So 3 participants responding. Okay. Just give another 10 seconds for anybody else that's struggling to get connected. And even if you're not a business, if you're just a stakeholder or another organization online and you found some of the stuff in this call useful, please do feed that back. It's important for us. Okay, another few seconds. Okay, I think on your screen you should have all 3 poll questions. So if we just move on to the next one, you might have already answered that, but how likely are you to implement any of the energy efficiency measures discussed here today within your own business or organization? So anything from LED lighting to the kinetic model, whatever the proper title for that was, Ciaran. So how likely are you to implement any of the energy efficiency measures discussed? And we have 8 respondents all saying likely. Okay. And again, if you want to put in the chat which ones you would be most interested or most willing or most likely to implement, do that. And then finally, what is your biggest barrier to implementing energy efficiency saving initiatives? And quite similar to one of the earlier questions, again, budget or investment required. I suppose with these types of measures, the return on investment is quite important as well, where there might be significant investment required upfront, but if your payback period is 2 or 3 years, then it can often be very worthwhile. Expertise, again, would like to know more about what that means exactly. What type of expertise is it? Is it identifying where your energy efficiency savings can be made? Is it mapping that out and understanding where the areas are? Or is it the actual expertise to implement, to manage, to operate, or to track some of these technologies? If there's anything you'd like to share on that, please do. Okay. Year 9 responded there. So we'll move on to the final. Somebody has typed other on that last one. So again, if you can, put that in the chat and share what that is. Okay, if we move on, Donna, I'm just conscious of time. We have a couple of minutes left and just want to wrap things up. So I mentioned at the start of the call that this is webinar number 2 of 8. So we had an energy efficiency for small businesses this morning, and then the one you're on just now, more focused on larger businesses. We do have 6 more insights webinars planned as part of this series under our MEANZ Business project. We're just finalising dates and speakers for those at the minute. We have set the subject areas, so you can see they're listed on the screen in front of you. If there's anything you think we're missing that really you'd like to hear more about, please do get in touch and I'll tell you how to do that in a second. But yeah, at the minute, those are the 6 we have planned. Our programme runs until June, so we will be doing these around about once a month, probably between now and spring, summer next year. We will be circulating the dates and registration information in due course, so hope you'll join us for some more of those. We've got some really good speakers and really good company case studies like we've had today lined up for each of those. So just stay tuned to our social media and our mailing list to be able to keep an eye on what those are and who those are. So we'll be sharing those in due course. And then finally, the last slide is just contact details. So that's my contact details. If you want to reach out, if there's anything that we've covered here today that you'd like to know more about. As I say, we will be sharing the slides in due course, and there will be a recording of this session go out as well if there's any part of it you wanted to watch back. You can also scan that QR code that's on the screen, and that should give you my contact details directly to your phone. So all that's left for me, one final check of the chat. I don't think there's anything else in there that I can see. I'd just like to thank Donna and Ryan in the background for your help setting up and keeping everything running smoothly in terms of the presentation. And thank Lucy at Energy Saving Trust and Ciaran at Ryobi for sharing your experiences and your knowledge. And then thank you to everyone who's attended for taking part. And as I say, that's the contact details. That's where we are if you want to reach out. And we'll be sharing some of the information on what we've done today and the future webinars in due course. Thank you.
Cheers, Connor. Thanks, Donna.
Cheers.
Thanks, everybody. Cheers.